Good morning and welcome to Sunday Story Hour, where we share real life stories of how human design has helped our guests know themselves on a deep transformative level. By knowing and trusting ourselves, we develop deeper, more honest relationships and unlock our true gifts. I'm Kathy Bashanko, and my guest this week is Moira Cormack, a 6'2" emotional projector, left angle cross of upheaval. Hi, Moira.
Hello, Kathy. Lovely to be with you.
Yeah, finally, we had a little tech issues, but we're gonna get right to we're gonna
Yeah.
get right into Moira's wonderful story. She's gonna let you know a little bit about how human design came into her life. And I met Moira online, and a little bit later I'll tell you the synchronicities that brought us together. But I'd love to start out by just you telling people a little bit about where you were at in your life when you found human design and what it's meant to you. So we'll jump right in.
Yeah, so I had come off the roof and it was very interesting to me when I look back. I love looking back. I love the fact that life makes sense in reverse. And it looks as if I had a cunning plan when really it all just unfolded. But I had got divorced just before my Chiron return at 50. I was getting divorced around, but then knowing that that was going to happen. So then I came off the roof and it was a little bit bumpy, bump, bump, bump. And um, and and I was exploring the body because the body is, in a sense, my passion, my interest, sexuality, and not the conditioned, homogenized sexuality, something deeper than that, a deeper view of it than that, where we really live and listen to the body. And that's where I was going anyway. And then I was following a lady who was talking about Gene Keys. Now, I looked very briefly at Gene Keys. It seems to have more PR around it than human design. And I dovetailed very quickly into human design. And I found my chart and I just thought, oh my God, that's just amazing. It was as if a light went in on me and everything made perfect sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So can I ask what specifically made the most sense? Like what, excuse me, what jumped out at you at right away is like, oh yeah.
Um, Not having an aura that's like other people's, um, being a 6'2", the transpersonal profile as well, and the emotionality. This, all that emotion is also sexual. So that's the stream of sexuality, the need and the passion. And I'm a poet. I have I have the poems that the 3955 produce. And it was like, that's where I write all the poetry. That's where when I fall in love and I have somebody who is a muse, the art and the poetry and everything pours out of me. And I can see it as a mutation. I can see that this comes into my life and pulls, a man comes into my life and then pulls all of this out of me. And I end up with books and a going into the depths to try and find my way through it. And there I am, a really deeply emotional being with 3 channels into my emotional center.
Yeah, when you sent me your chart, I looked at it and I was like, wow, you certainly are an emotional projector. 3 channels, and all 3 of them are emotional channels, and those are your channels. It's
Yeah.
you have the individual emotional 3955, and then you have, is it, tell me because I'm not looking at your chart at the moment and I don't.
The 1949 and the 3740.
Right. Okay. So the other 2 are both tribal then. So um
Yes.
Yeah, so I can see how that all works together in you very nicely. So at the time when you discovered human design, so were you in your somatic practice? What you were
Yeah.
talking about how you were really into the body and the sexuality. So elaborate a little bit more on what you were doing with that, if you don't mind.
Well, yeah. So um, I was going through a deep process. I was going through a training process that was actually created by a projector. So it was the second year of it, and she had created a very dense intellectual program that a lot of the people couldn't keep up with. But it was a mixture of Tantra, internal family systems, so Neo Tantra, ancient Tantra, but she'd incorporated internal family systems, NLP, EFT, all sorts of other therapies and ways of being into the training. And the body came first. We were living from the body. We were coming into the body. To me, the body graph is not a piece of paper that I'm looking at. This is my solar plexus. This is the channel here.
Right.
This is the channel from my root. My root is my cervix, because that's what the root is. The tree, the nervous system tree of the body, the vagus nerve comes up like a tree, just like the human body graph. It's got roads running through it, and they're all in our bodies. So all those hanging gates are energetic points in our physical bodies. And when we are conditioned and we grow up, we we have electromagnetics or compromises with people in our family, and that conditions us to see that energy and to feel it in our bodies in a certain way. So some is good and some is bad, but neither of those are necessarily us.
Mhm.
So,
That's really beautiful. And I don't want to interrupt, but I want you to back up a little bit because oh,
yeah.
look at my crystals in my window are putting little spots on my face now. That's fun. I want you to back up just a little bit if you don't mind, because we have people who will be listening who didn't know what half of what you were talking about was like. So first I want to back up and most of us might know, but it's okay if we don't. So um, Tantra, can you explain a little bit about what that is? And then I know that we have that connects to our body graph, but explain what you mean by Tantra. I know that's a thing, but
Okay, so there is a very modern form of Tantra where it is only sexuality, but it's not what it is. It is it is in a sense more like Buddhism. It is a study in that sense, and it believes that everything has consciousness. So it believes that those parts of your body that are hurt, your inner child or your critical voice, all of those have consciousness. It believes that every leaf and every blade of grass has consciousness. And of course, they all carry a design crystal. So, in a sense, they do.
yeah,
You,
and I want to just interject here and say for those who don't know, when Ra was given the human design system from the voice, he was actually given the design of all forms, and
Mhm.
humans were one of them. So the voice, when it told Ra of the body graph, also told us, and it was really interesting to me that to look at the different designs. So that's something people can go down a rabbit hole on if they want there. But okay, continue. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that in there.
So, Tantra believes that we have, we have, like internal family systems, you have a family of energy in your body. And like the human design body graph, in a sense, it's a family of energy. So my family is tribal and individual, mostly. And my family, the ones that I am, are root and solar plexus. So I am emotion. And the people who who raised me, connected to me in certain ways. energies and imprinted a belief around those energies in my body. So if I bring it back to a real parent of mine to make it a more sort of solid example. So I adored my father, and he was a 4/6 generator, cross of Eden. And he raised me to question everything. He raised me with really great amount of love. So afterwards, when I was growing up, if I met somebody who had similar energy, I would feel really safe and relaxed in that person's company because I felt the same energy as I had done with my dad. But those people weren't my dad.
Yeah.
And they weren't good to me necessarily, like my dad was. It was an illusion for me that everybody I met who was a 4/6 generator on the Cross of Eden was going to be just a lovely experience for me in the same way that my dad had. So if we think about how we deal with, trauma, you can bump into somebody equally if you had a bad father, if you had a bad relationship with your father, you might bump into somebody with similar energy who was actually really, really nice, but you would reject them because the energy would be telling you a story. And so those stories become our beliefs, and we can see them on our human design body graph. And we can also go into the body because they live in the body. My dad is past now, but the energy and the love he gave me lives inside me, inside where two hanging gates met, inside the connections in my body graph.
That's really beautiful, Moira. And so, as you're saying this, I'm thinking about how this is one of the difficulties people have in life is, we're all meant to trust our bodies and our intuition, but many times we have this conditioning or these limiting beliefs and all these other things that give us messages based on the wrong signals, right? So I meet someone and I think my intuition is saying, oh, stay away from them. But my body is just saying, oh, they have the same energy as this person who hurt you. Or not the same energy. They have similar energies in some ways. And so the process of being able to trust our intuition begins with knowing what's us and
Yes.
what's them and what's, being able to get rid of those what's the word I'm looking for? Getting rid of those conditioned ideas around how a connection feels.
Yes.
So that's really beautiful. And I love the way you explained the root as the cervix. And so now how do you equate that in the male anatomy then?
The perineum.
Okay.
The perineum is the root of the vagus nerve in men. Um, so you can in Tantra you can breathe from there. You can de-armor your cervix. We hold a lot of conditioning around, food and sexuality are two of the really big ones. And, for me, I have need motivation. So when somebody comes to me, they have to need something. If they need something from me, then the answer will come out of me. If they just say, I want this information, then I'm just like, read a book or something. I'm not here to say, oh, look, you've got these gates. But I am here to say, you're struggling in love and relationships. Let me have a look. Oh, and this is how it manifests in your life. Let's have a look. Let's talk to your body. Let's have a look at the body graph and let's marry those two things together. One of, yeah.
I was a little bit laughing while you're saying that because that just adds a layer to the situation of how you wound up being our guest, right? Or my
Mhm.
guest on here today. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just kind of tell that story quickly because I did need you. All right. So I'm on a call that you were part of a group call. So just for people to know. So, first I was on a call on Monday where um, my teacher and mentor, Karen Curry Parker, was talking about titration in regards to how we have to add a drop at a time before we see the reaction of things and not to get discouraged when we don't see results in things right away and that sort of thing. And I was thinking for a minute, wow, I haven't heard that word in decades. I literally had that thought. And then
Mm.
I'm on a call with you in Adrienne Roach's community and another person, and I'm blanking on her name. And I feel really bad because I already feel like she didn't get recognition in that call for this whole thing she started. But she started this conversation where she used the word titration. And I was distracted at that moment because I had just gotten a message from someone who said, oh, I'm not going to be able to make it for this Sunday. My guest that I had tentatively scheduled was not able to do it. And I was distracted. And then I came back just in time to hear Adrienne saying something about titration. And then you said it's a somatic word. And then you started talking, and I was like, it was one of those synergies that my intuition just was firing on all the cylinders, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're supposed to pay attention. And so then it just adds a layer that when I reached out to you, I had a need. I needed someone for Sunday, this for today, and here you are. And I just think it's beautiful how all of that came together in such a beautiful recognition of the synchronicities of life, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, I took you off of your beautiful conversation, but I really wanted to share about paying attention, how when we pay attention to things, it really
Yes.
brings beautiful things into life sometimes, or keeps
Yeah.
horrible things away.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it is all about awareness. And it is, um, you know, for me, my key thing is to live from my body. So I have always lived from my body. I'm a 6'2". My body has always been very natural for me, and I've enjoyed my body. And I don't know that there are a huge number of people who start off a conversation and say, I just enjoy my body. I love having this body. And, we're conditioned to believe you can only have pleasure if you look this way or you look that way. And it's just not true. Every single body in the world is capable of having pleasure, and not not the conditioned pleasure, which is so narrow that it makes me want to cry. But
Mm.
before any of us can reach that part, or most of us, we have to go through the conditioning. And the conditioning can be thick and it can be painful. And that's where the idea of titration comes in. The reason why we box part of us away, the sense of we can't do this or we can't do that, because we're told as a child, don't look like that. Don't give me that angry face. You must never be angry. Put that face away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we put it away. We connected with somebody. Maybe, I don't know, one of the channels of struggle or something, the 2838, and maybe you're compromised on it, for example, and you're told to put it away, and it's difficult energy, and you don't want to feel that energy. So you do put it away. You put it away down in your body. You pack it in and you don't let it out, because you're frightened that if you let it out or let anybody see it, they're going to shout at you like your father or your mother or your brother or whatever did, wherever you learned that particular energy. So it's then we move into that energy gently, because if that box has got smaller and tighter and smaller and tighter, you can't go, and you've wrapped it in ice, for example, so that nobody can get there. It's like sealed with ice. The idea isn't that we take a bomb and blast that ice through
Mm-hmm.
and re-traumatize that connection, that energy in the body. The idea is that we go into it gently. So we move towards it a little bit and allow you to breathe. Difficult energy, and then we come back into something safe. I like it to be in the body, so touching touching your hands, just coming back to feeling here I am. Here I am, this is my hand, I'm an adult. Here I am. And touching my hand, the palm of my hand, I'm an adult. I'm in this room, I'm safe. And then breathing a little bit back into that energy and coming back. And as we start to connect with the energies in our body, under the understanding that none of us is bad, not one single part, not one single gate is bad or wrong or not allowed. We're all allowed. So we start connecting gently with it. And so that's what titration is, the moving in and out. But until we do that, we have exactly your example from earlier. We don't know whether the spleen is saying from one of those energies, that's going to be dangerous because of this, that, or the next thing because of those. So I feel that it's really deeply transformative work to go into the body, because the body will be sending a message very quickly up to the mind, very quickly, before the mind's thought about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much of my excuse me, early days in my experiment were so in the mind. I have this completely open ajna. And so in the beginning, even though I'm reading that the shadow, for lack of a better term, or the not, because I don't really like the term not self, because it is all part of us, even if it's conditioned self, it's still part of us at the time. But that message is that, we need to be certain, and we're not really meant to be certain. We're meant to hold all this openness in this beautiful open ajna that I have. But yet still, even as I'm reading this and learning this, I'm trying to be certain that I understand the just the pieces of human design instead of the pieces of me, and it took me quite a while to where I started to feel it in my body. And I see that happening with a lot of people, understandably so. And it's fascinating to me to think of coming into this experiment from the opposite place, where you're already so deeply connected with your body. I'm a
Yeah.
little bit jealous.
I mean, yeah, there are so many levels where being connected to your body
Right.
is absolutely blissful. I mean, it's blissful to live from a body that is happy. And
Mhm.
it's blissful to live with a great deal of respect for your body. So that, I mean, the simplest things, like, we don't even go to the bathroom when our bodies want to. If you're in a social circle and you need the bathroom, kind of waiting, and then you go, oh, excuse me, and you go off. You don't just go when your body wants you to. We don't always drink when our bodies want us to. We move these things through social circles. It's becoming aware of your body's movements and the energy. Does your body have the energy for this? That's the simplest level.
Oh, and as projectors, that's what we're here to figure out, or not figure out, what we're here to embody and live, right? I have um, both my sun gates and my Mercury and a couple other gates. I have 59 three times, so it's my design sun and a couple of other design gates that whatever. But I have all these gates on my undefined sacral. So clearly I'm here to learn through my relationships how to use my energy in a way that is wise and empowering for me and them at the same time, that builds. And so that's been a huge lesson for me in the whole human design thing. Where is my energy best served for everybody, not just because I can, especially with a defined will. You and I both have defined wills, so we know we can push through at any time, right?
If we choose to, yes. Yeah, and with my need motivation, I have 4 daughters, and if a child rings me up, I sometimes imagine that I'm one of those string puppets that's completely collapsed.
If they need you to let them in the door, right? I remember you told me
Yeah,
that.
we need you, and I'm like, and moving through. I can do things I never imagined I would be able to do. I can stitch and mend bones and everything.
Yeah. Now you told me, or in your bio, you said that all of this that you're doing stemmed from your being a mother to 4 girls. So when you went on the roof and you had these 4 girls, were you already on this path, or did this path start after motherhood? There's this three stage path to the sixth
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Right. I know. I'm just explaining for people who might not be aware, and I'm curious how you went on the roof, at what point, where you were when at that point.
I remember going on the roof and struggling because life was taking me away from the roof, and I didn't honor myself at that point in time. So I definitely lived my first 28, 30 years as a sixth line being. I refused to get a job or settle in any way before I was 28. I did a degree, I did a postgraduate degree. I traveled all over Europe with a rucksack on my back and lived on beaches. And
That's
and
very third line, though, living on beaches.
yeah, yeah,
Which,
yeah. One of the things that I loved was that when Ra left Canada and he disappeared, and he went to Amsterdam or somewhere, and then he took a bus company called the Magic Bus down through Spain. And I took the Magic Bus from Greece to London. And it was quite some bus because it didn't have a license to run in most countries. So we would be diverted to different cities in order to try and sneak through borders and stuff on the way. So I definitely had that third line phase. And then as a sixth line, when I was in my very early 30s, I wanted to be married and I wanted to settle, which I hadn't done. And so I compromised on that. But I got married at 33 and conceived honeymoon twins
oh, wow.
within 2 days. And just before we got married, he had been offered a job in Bombay in India. So I immigrated to Bombay carrying twins as I was going on the roof. And I had two
Wow.
two babies. Yeah, isolated. I was very isolated from family and friends. And then we came back just before they were 2, and I conceived again. And then I had 3 children under 3
As a projector.
as a projector. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay. And what types are your 3 daughters?
The first 3 are emotional generators, emotional manifesting generators.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you had lots of sacral energy you were in your aura. So then when did you have your fourth daughter?
I waited almost 6 years to have my fourth daughter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She wasn't planned. I wanted children, but I
Right.
never thought, oh, I'm going to have twins.
Right.
That was part and parcel of, You don't imagine that, do you really?
No.
And then,
And what's the fourth? What's her type?
she is a 3-5 sacral generator.
Okay, so all generator babies. And their father is what? What type?
He is a 1-3 generator.
Okay. So yeah, you had a lot of sacral energy in your aura. Okay. So
Mhm.
so when did the whole um road towards, this exploring of Tantra and somatics and all this stuff begin for you?
About a decade ago, just over a decade ago. Yeah.
So right before your divorce.
Yeah, right around my divorce. You know, I was a projector with 4 children. I am tribal, so I worked well with the family. I created real family times. You know, we had cake and tea every afternoon and sat around the table. We had family meals. I didn't speak, and they were all singing and chatting, and were lively. And my ex didn't like any of it at all. And I wonder about numbers. I wonder about 6 people in a family, and so we were 5 of us, and I was carrying him. He didn't. I was the super slave for sure, and he would sit and read the newspaper, and I did everything, and I just started to hate him. I mean, I can't put it any other way, because um, he didn't do anything, and I was exhausted. But I'm very grateful for my ego center, because I had the willpower to say, I'm not going to endure this anymore. I was married 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wrote about this today, which is really interesting, because he invited me out. He said, we can go back or we can get a divorce. And I thought, yes, we can get a divorce. That's it. I'll choose the divorce. And so I did. Uh,
Go
but
back where? When he said go back, what was he referring to?
it came out to me doing everything, and him sitting reading the newspaper.
Oh, go back the way things used to be.
In the marriage, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got that invitation, right?
So I got the invitation out, yeah, and I took it with both hands. And at that point, um, I knew I needed to do something for myself. And as a sixth line, the sixth line, I mean, I have the 3955. I have the 25 twice. I have an open G. I have gate 59 in Uranus. I'm punished in gate 59.
You're
And
What do you mean?
Jupiter is the punisher, isn't it?
Oh
Saturn
no,
is.
I've always heard of Jupiter as the benevolent rewards.
Oh well,
You
I
gotta,
don't know about that,
so I've
but
always
I just so I have all this you know emotional energy that is there, and and my sixth line longed for soul connection. It just longed for soul connection, and I wondered how I was going to get it. And I found it for myself and in myself. And, to me, we all have a doorway, and not everybody's doorway is sexuality, but really understanding your own body, spending hours connecting to your body, um, is a fabulous doorway, as far as I'm concerned, into living from your body and trusting your body. And that's what human design is about. It is about giving your body the life.
well,
That's
and I want to back up just a little because as you're telling this story, I'm reflecting on, we both commented how you were giving the invitation, but the invitation came because you were living a more authentic life. And so some people who are in a situation where they're like, oh, I'm not getting the invitations. Well, the invitation for you to make this choice. This happened because you started living this life that said, I'm not going to be that person I was before, right? And
Oh, you have sparked a piece of knowledge in me that I hadn't truly realized until now. So,
well, because with my husband, I know I had to say, listen, I love you, but I love me more, and I'm not going to. And fortunately, my husband said, oh, okay. I didn't know that was that important. And I realized I was keeping myself small, that he didn't want that. He was just happy with me however I was being. So in this case, you did this, and now I want you to share your.
okay, so that's very interesting. So when I was about 42, in human design terms, an adult, my south and north nodes changed.
Uranus opposition, right?
Yes. So I moved at that point. I started to move into gate 56, which is the seeker, the sword storyteller. And
Mm-hmm.
I had always been a writer. And I had a best friend who also had 4 children. And she said, why don't you come with me on a writing retreat? So I went for about 4 or 5 years in my 40s to Morocco for a week on a writing retreat. And as you said, I believe the writing brought me back into myself. So in before I agreed to the divorce, I had been on a writing retreat and I had written a piece for 10 minutes. And I started when I got back to turn it into a novel. And so I completely escaped from my marriage and from everything else, from all the super slaving and into writing. I would be mashing potatoes and I would think, that's the way that sentence has got to be. And I would run back to the computer and change it. And one day I was so busy, I realized we'd passed supper time. So I just laid out plates and I told the children to come. I said, children, children, come, come, come. And there was no food. And they said, what are we doing? And I said, today we're going to be breatharians. Just take a look. Take a lovely gulp of fresh air, children.
Every mom's going to have to save that one. Okay, save that for those days.
So I always retained my sense of humor about it, about the whole thing. But having that connection outside my marriage, I think helped me come back into myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
So that by the time, so in a sense, the design was just leading me where I was supposed to be. You know, I wrote that novel and I sent it off, and immediately I got a publisher. So it was meant to be. And then I wrote 3 other novels over the course of my divorce.
Oh, wow. And did
So
you publish all of them or?
um, 2 I've never edited.
Okay. So
Because yeah,
what
can you
would,
imagine writing a 70,000 word novel and thinking, oh, I'll edit that one day. And I mean, it was so much work, but and they're great. They're great novels, and I love them, and I loved writing them. They saved my life.
yeah,
They
yeah,
saved my life.
that's really beautiful. Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing those deep personal stories. You know, the sixth line, for those who don't know, is always seeking the soulmate, right? But the reason we often don't find it until we come off the roof is because we don't really know our soul well enough to find the right mate. So, and sometimes we are already with the person for some of us, and then the relationship just takes a whole new level, which has been my experience. And I'm really fortunate that he is who he is because there were times where I was like, and when you're going through your deconditioning process and you're married to a fifth line, you tend to project a lot of your stuff you're dealing with on them, right? So that was, or I don't know if everybody does. That was just my experience, but and that was really transformative in our relationship for me to realize that he couldn't be who I wanted him to be because I wasn't me yet, really. I was a form of me, but I wasn't. And I hope I'm still not all the way me. I hope that I'm continuing to become a bigger, bolder, more authentic me every day, right?
Well, I don't believe that the deconditioning is ever over. It's like the desire for life. That inside each of us is this desire to know ourselves. And as projectors, we know ourselves through the other, but that doesn't mean that we don't know ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we know ourselves, you know, even when we reach the end, we won't have ended the possibilities of knowing ourselves because they're actually endless. And there is a sense where we can only know ourselves yesterday, because today I'm changing. Today I'm putting a foot forward into a new me because I'm mutating, because I'm changing. Uh, I did lay down the gauntlet of looking for anybody or desiring a partner, even as a sixth line. I heard Ra speak about Gate 55 and its unrequited love and the desperation inside it. And he said somebody with that energy could waste their whole life yearning for somebody, being drawn into the not self energy of that gate. And I hung my head in sadness for all the energy I had poured into that, when I could have been pouring it into my art or my writing or my coaching or my guiding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love being on a call with somebody and making a difference, touching their spirit. So I have a lot of spirit energy in me, touching their spirit so that one thing changes for them. One thing changes, and then you can see that the light bulb goes on, and I'm the cross of upheaval. You just need to be with me to be changed. There is nothing else. You just need to be in my presence, really, because that's what it does. It changes other people, not me. It's
Yeah.
like I'm plowing a field. I'm plowing the field of people and turning over the stuck soil.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I have really started to understand on a deep internal level, the idea that our cross is how we impact the world, not it's our purpose. And so I'm left angle cross of uncertainty. So helping people to navigate the uncertainties of life and be comfortable with the not knowings. And it's interesting because I told you about how I spent so much of my life needing to know, needing to be certain, and being able to let go of that need for certainty had to start with me before I can have the impact that I'm meant to have on others with that. And that's constantly as a sixth line too, like something that I'm experiencing every day, like this uncertainty of like, where am I going with this business that I'm building? Like a year ago when I started it, I was focused on so many different things than what I'm doing now because I'm growing and changing. And so I don't know. I only know where I am right now. And as a second line, I need to do what feels natural and feels good. And hopefully it's, something will, I just trust. I don't even want to say hopefully. I just trust that the next thing is going to show itself. The next person will, draw draw me out from something I'm doing. The invitation will be there. But meanwhile, I'm just happy to, I spent all day yesterday playing with Canva and learning how to edit videos and put elements in that I was like, oh my God, I know how to do this now. Like silly things that, might not even seem there. It's just, learning. Learning is fun for me.
Yeah,
So
learning is fun for me as well. I do a lot of learning, a lot of reading, a lot of listening. I have, it seems to me, very messy hobbies. I have huge piles of, I think you call them thrift shops, but we call them charity shops. So I buy color books, picture books that aren't needed and cut images out and make collages. So I have books everywhere as I search for images, and I am a hedge witch in my spare time. So I'm always foraging for plants and foods and drying them and making things. And again, it's messy. Everything I do is sort of slightly messy, but I'm not sure I've ever worried about my purpose. I'm not sure it's ever something that has given me any sleepless nights. I feel when I look at my life that it looks as if I had a plan. And if you trust life, it will do that for you because you are a person with the purpose. And if you trust it, it will pull you through. And to me, that's what the magic is. My twins are horrified by this idea that you just surrender completely. You just float, and you know that life will bring you what you need. And especially if you're floating in joy and happiness and playfulness, it will bring you what you need. And when you look back at it, there will be a breadcrumb trail through the woods of your life that say, this was Moira.
that's beautiful. How old are your twins now?
They're 26 now. They're
Okay.
venturing into the world.
They're what?
They're venturing into the world.
Yeah.
They're
Uh,
questioning the fact that I was 26 with no plans but living on a beach and managed to get a degree and a postgraduate degree and then a very short career just to prove that I could. I think I worked in the traditional sense for the total sum of about 5 years.
yeah. That's interesting. So they're getting close. Pretty soon they'll be hitting their Saturn returns, right? And then
Yeah.
your youngest is how old?
My youngest is 17. So, yeah. And the middle one, I mean, she's not quite in the middle because she's the third,
Right.
but she's the second burr. She's actually a 6'2" as well. And I can feel that ooh, loveliness of her being a 6'2", the same as me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, to feel the commonalities. My daughter is a 2/4 splenic manifester. So there's tons of differences. I mean, she's right angle cross, she's a manifester, but the undefined sacral, and then we both have the 2644 tribal channel. And so there's a commonality in that. And I think a little bit of the second line, it feels like our little bond, but we're 6 and 3. So Ra's little saying for that is better to be free. So we have this really different relationship to where I feel deeply connected and close to her, but yet completely free and separate from her in a way that, it's really, I mean, I just have one child, so I don't have anything to compare it to, but I wonder what it would be like to have that connection of the 6-2 like that, because that's pretty specifically you, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's lovely, and she's emotional as well, and that's lovely. My youngest is a 3'5", and we have 8 and 1. But I'm compromised. She has 6 channels, and I'm compromised on 5 of them.
Wow.
So she has the channel, and I have a hanging gate on 5 of them. And that's the hardest energy to manage.
Mm-hmm.
From my side, from being compromised side, that's
Mm-hmm.
the hardest thing. And yet the others have been gone for 5 years, and I have lived just her and me that time. And I can honestly say I didn't know it would be possible to live with another human so happily. So it is who we are, what we accept, how willing we are to surrender.
Yeah. And the 3-5, that's a I'm really drawn to that personality, but I've had to really um become aware of, key things in that personality in order to not feel rejected by it. As a projector, that rejection wound is still easily triggered at times. And the 3-5 really needs to have their space when they are questioning anything in the relationship. They need to be able to pull back and look at what's not working and re-enter on their terms. And old me, who didn't understand about my projector aura, would always be trying to go in and fix things. The guilt motivation in me would always try to make it better. And that would just push the 3-5s further and further away, especially. But I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I'm noticing that we are getting, I know we started a little late, but we're getting near the end. So I'm wondering if anybody who's watching has any comments or questions for Moira. I haven't, or for me. I have not seen anything yet, but um, and then I just wanted to touch a little bit on what you're doing now as far as I know you do, you told me inner child work and you're a sexuality and relationship coach. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like in your life.
The inner child work is essential to the sexuality work. So we cannot experience the full breadth of the possibility of pleasure with an inner child who's kicking off and saying, that's not safe, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't feel this, shut you down. So the inner child work is the first part of it. So when I first started coaching, it was the piece that came up again and again and again that needed healing. So, as a mum of four, I live in Scotland, and for 6 years, I was part of an early years intervention team by the government here to raise children with self esteem. So, basically, to change the conditioning that was going on with children. So, I have all these experiences and all the Tantra. So, I have created an inner child course that pulls it together. Might be the only inner child course out there with breast massage in it, but that is it. So it is a different take on it. From a human design point of view, it's the hanging gates or the compromises from our childhood that hurt us the most, and we can go in, we can speak to them, we can get to know them, we can become aware of when they manifest and when they don't. And it basically raises our overall awareness. And as a writer, I do written visualizations, we do writing. As an artist, we do art, we do meditations, we do some sexuality in it. It is a rich and diverse course. And I'm about to start the next one on the 5th of February.
Oh, awesome. You said the 5th of February?
The 5th of February.
Oh, I do want to just clarify for those who don't know, because you've spoken a few times about compromise channels. And so, or when you said when we're compromised, and I know you're specifically referring to in human design connection. And so for those who might not be familiar, if you have a hanging gate and a person you're with has the whole channel, that can feel like a compromise, even though sometimes it feels electromagnetic because you feel that other part, but you don't really have access to the whole channel the way they do. And it can make you feel um, actually compromised, yeah, and uncomfortable. There can be, that's usually a good place when you're looking at, when I'm doing relationship readings or looking at just connections in general. that's usually where the conflicts in a relationship can be understood. And when we understand them, then we don't fight against stuff that, that to me was the most liberating thing from a relationship standpoint in understanding connections and human design is when I realized that certain things were just energy and my mind was making up a story about them. That was just so transformative in how I responded to them, right? Because I no longer was angry at the person for doing something. It was something I was feeling because of the way the energy came through. So,
Yes.
yeah.
The compromise is, I mean, we've got companionship and we've got electromagnetic. And as you say, the compromise starts off feeling like an electromagnetic.
Mhm.
And Ra describes it as the burn, because if you're the person with the hanging gate, it can feel very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean, like you said, you have 5 compromises with your daughter, but you're living with her in beautiful relationship. So it's understanding it is the key with anything. And I just feel like this is a great place for the disclaimer um, that when you're looking at human design, especially when people are looking at a partner or a potential partner's chart, it's not a matter of something being incompatible or this isn't going to work. There's no prescriptive nature to looking at a human design chart. So that's something I just feel is good to throw in here because I see so many posts on social media where people will say, this is my chart, this is his chart, what do you guys see? And then people will be like, oh, this is going to be a problem, this is going to be a problem, and and start telling all this stuff that's coming from this mind place of potentials. But if um, you could have two beautiful charts filled with, electromagnetics and 8 and 1 have some fun, no splits, all that sort of stuff, same kind of motivation, all that. And then the person is in the low expression of everything. And, you're you're going to just have, if it's a low vibe person, you're going to have low vibe energy no matter how it connects, right? So, yeah.
It is, there is no judgment on it. I mean, the difficulty is if you believe somebody is right or wrong for being different from you, they're not right or wrong. It's just mechanical energy. And some of it is, it's not wrong, but it can be more challenging. And we are brought challenges because we're probably able to cope with them. They're brought to us to challenge us because that is the growth journey through life.
Yeah.
If we shrink from the challenges or we turn into a victim, for example, we can sabotage things, we can turn into a victim. If we stay in victim, we're unable to grow. So it really is managing all these different energies by bringing them into awareness
Yeah.
and not judging them. Because the minute we don't judge, we're not judging ourselves. And the difficult energies inside us, the challenging ones inside us, will come to us as somebody else because they're asking to be healed. So if somebody is in front of you and they're challenging, what's challenging? Where has that shown up in your life before? Do you have the courage to go in? Is it safe for you to do it alone? Or do you need to be with somebody like me? Because it isn't always possible to do it alone.
I'm looking at the comments. That was really beautiful. And Valerie just wrote the same thing I was thinking. And she says, Moira's wisdom continues to amaze me.
Oh, thank
So
you very
on
much.
that note, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you're really feeling pressed to share with the viewers before we end this? Or
No, I'm now suitably tired and I'm going to go and get a cup of tea.
that's awesome. Okay, so if folks want to work with you, Moira, how would they best contact and get in touch with you?
They can find me through my Facebook page. I've got a Linktree there. They can book a human design consultation with me, especially if they've got a naughty issue they would like unraveling and looked at through the microscope, and find some relief in understanding from. And my inner child course is up there as well, and I can always put the link down here as well.
Okay, so the best way is through your Facebook, and if folks are watching this later on YouTube and they wanted to reach out to you, is there a way that they can connect with you?
Yeah, they can email me, they can DM me.
Okay. And
All on my Linktree.
we'll put we'll put your contacts in the description on YouTube also. So thanks, Moira, and thanks to everybody who joined us here or live or on the replays. And every week we share stories of how my guests have come to understand themselves in a more loving and empowering way through the lens of human design. How you think and speak about yourself matters. Human design can show you the reframe of not only your own story, but the story you tell yourself about your relationships. If you're ready to start living a better story, I'd love to help guide you through the process of embodying who you came here to be. To work with me, I invite you to set up a free discovery call at kathybashanko.com. And I hope to see you next week. Peace out.